Hello and welcome to another edition of the NDEY OLEY TAAL show. Today the show is different because we have something that is affecting the world. It's a global problem and now it's a Gambian problem. And in the studio with me today I have an expert that we will be talking to just soothe us and advise us. He's been very active with this even a month before prior to even this affecting the Gambia. We will go for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk to the expert, then we'll reveal him as well. So stay tuned and don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the NDEY OLEY TAAL show. In the studio with me today, I have Dr. Ismail Badjie, founder and CEO of UNWELL Global Health. Welcome, Ismail, to the studio.
Thanks for having me, Naomi. Thank you.
First of all, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
For everything that you're doing, and you're making such a big difference in the country, in the Gambia. And Gambia is so proud of you.
Yeah,
thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. It means a lot. That's the whole reason why we decided to come home, just to kind of see how we could help do a little bit to improve the system in the Gambia. So we're just grateful and happy that we're planting some roots back home now.
Thank you so much for what you do. Before we get into the main topic of today, tell us just a bit about you, a brief background about you.
Yeah, so my name is Ismail Badjie. I'm Gambian. I was born in Banjul. My family's from Banjul on my mom's side. My dad's side is from Bansang, by virtue of Foni, Buyam area. Spent most of my childhood actually in the United States, then came back to Gambia. So Mrs. Ndau's Gambia High School, and then went back to the States where I've been. So I've lived in the U.S. half of my life until I, went through schooling, chemistry for my undergrad, got my doctor of pharmacy from Purdue, started practicing as a pharmacist in the U.S. For close to 8 years, and then started thinking about a journey back home, which is why we started InnoverX Global Health as a healthcare solutions company. Our mindset was like things that everybody in Gambia struggles with: access to quality care, access to quality medications, just being a presence, using technology to make people's lives better. That's why we decided to come home. So it's been an interesting journey back home. It feels good to be back, and now especially more than ever, I feel like there's a reason why we came back. So we're trying to see how we could do to kind of help improve and add on to what everybody else in the system was already doing.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Yeah. So has it been what you expected?
The good thing is, right, a lot of wise people told me don't expect anything.
Okay.
Right, so we came with our expectations very, very low because we knew the Gambia, all the things about the Gambia, you hear it. It's hard to start up a new company. Investors don't like investing in Gambia. It's the bureaucracy, it's slow, it's busy, it's challenging. We knew all those things. Okay. So we honestly came with an open mind, but with an intentional mind, knowing what we wanted to be, how we wanted to do it, and just has stuck the course. So the past year, it took us 5 years to get to where we are. So we started coming to Gambia in 2014, but our facility did not open until 2019. So we've already been patient, where if it was frustrating, we would have left a long time ago. We didn't have any expectations, and to this day, I still don't have expectations. All I know is we're focused and intentional about what we're doing. So we've always focused on the Gambian people, not the Gambia as a nation, and everything that's challenging. And we're seeing the impact that we're doing, so it's motivating us to also know that Gambia, it's just a starting point. So it's not a Gambian company, it's an African company, because all of Gambia's problems are Africa's problems.
Right.
So Gambia is a good pilot country for us to test our technology, test all the things that we're doing, and start seeing how we could move to other parts of the West African country. So it's been what I thought it would be.
Yeah, and the response as well has been great, because I see people and your team, everybody is very interactive. You're very into the society as well.
Absolutely. We wanted to build a culture of service, a healthcare system that puts patients first, that puts quality first, because it's our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers. So that has been exciting, hiring a lot of young Gambians, interacting with a lot of young Gambian healthcare professionals who have been supportive. I think the healthcare community has been very supportive, so experienced doctors who've been practicing in the Gambia have been so instrumental with giving us advice on how to go about doing things. From Dr. Ramunjai to Dr. Ayapama to the younger breed, you know, Dr. Marena, Dr. Sanyang, Dr. Jaite. So that's been good. So I feel like I have a good ecosystem of people that know the system better than I do, and I'm not afraid to reach out to them to see how best to settle down.
Sounds like you have a winning team there. I feel safe already.
You almost have to do that.
Yeah.
Because it'll be naive to assume that you could just come to the Gambia and fix all the problems.
Right.
Right. And I know we couldn't do it alone. So collaboration is something that we're still very, very excited about, and always reaching out to see how we could bring people together.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're wishing you all the best.
Definitely.
You're doing great, and I'm sure there's way more to come. Your office, your establishment is situated at
yeah, so it's in Conifing. We are right on the Bertil Hayden Highway Road, so just the Election House building. So between Election House and Methodist Academy, Fatu Golden Plaza, that's where we're located as well too. But all our services, we have a delivery service as well too. So our Wellness on Wheels program, while it's designed to go out.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, because that's one of the things we thought about as well too. We wanted every single barrier to access to healthcare, cost, transportation, access, quality. From day one, let's find a way to mitigate those things. So if it's access to transportation, if somebody's grandmother might be difficult for them to come from Brufut to Conifing, no, we could come from Conifing to Brufut and offer the same service.
That's so awesome.
In times like this, where we're telling people social distancing, you could call, you could speak to a professional pharmacist. They see what's going on. If you need a product or a wellness product, we could deliver it to you. So we built the system thinking about all the challenges that people in the Gambia have, and it's been good. That's why a lot of people ask, well, you guys are not located in a high traffic area. That's by design too. We want it to feel like a healthcare experience, but we also want to have the flexibility of being able to go in and out.
This is amazing.
So it's good.
It's awesome. I wanted to talk about all of those things because I want people to know why you are here. Obviously, the show today is about the coronavirus and how it is dominating the world. I can say 2020 started with a bang. This is the biggest blow. You know, it's so early on in the year, and this is happening already, and the rest of the year looks so gloomy to me at the moment. I don't know if it's just me or something, but I wanted I started talking about you and everything you've done for people to have an idea of the background, why you are sitting here. Because there's so many health experts, and there's so many doctors, and there's a lot of, maybe a lot of people that do what you do. But the reason why I wanted you to be here is because I do follow what you do a lot, and a lot of people do follow what you do. And even before the coronavirus and the case and all this things happening at the moment in the Gambia, you've been out there doing this. So I thought, who else? I want him to be here and talk to us about these things, because we need somebody to clarify a lot of things. Ismail, the coronavirus, what is it? What is the coronavirus?
So so the coronavirus, obviously, there's not a single person on the face of the earth right now that's not thinking about it. Which I think is the cause of some of the panic too. But what I always like to tell people is it's not the first time us humans have dealt with a virus, right? Something that's scary. Now with media, with travel, it spreads a little bit faster, but it's happened before. Even in Gambia, I'm from Afdai originally, like my mom's from Afdai. The name Half-Dai comes from a pandemic that wiped out half of the population, right? So throughout history, it's happened before. So this particular virus, so the coronavirus, I'll start with the name, because a lot of people might not even know where the name comes from. So corona means crown, like a crown, right? And then the virus, because the virus, if you look at the virus, it has tiny features on the surface that resembles a crown. So that's why the group of viruses that have those features, they call them coronaviruses. Right? So it's not the first type of coronavirus. But this one in particular,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this one in particular, they found it out in 2019 in Wuhan, China, December. And what happened was the whole community, they started seeing increased cases of pneumonia within one area. So doing a little bit of research, obviously science and medicine starts digging in deeper, and that's how they found the nCoV-19, which is this particular strain of coronavirus, and realized that, okay, it's a respiratory disease that it causes. That's also not new. If people remember a couple of years ago, we had MERS.
MERS, yes.
Yeah, the Middle Eastern respiratory disease that came from Saudi Arabia. We also had the SARS, S-A-R-S, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, right? So they knew that, okay, it was of that caliber, something that affects the respiratory system, which is why in advanced cases, most people will die from pneumonia. But we've seen cases where kidney failure, so long term. So at least the medical community started with this virus, as scary as it is, to know, okay, this is where it originated from, at least based on the information they have, and how it spread. So it spread through respiratory droplets. So it's not spread through, it's not an airborne disease, which is why the rate of infection.
See, I thought it was airborne because they're like, oh, it's in the air because you can breathe something. Okay.
And that's one of the things that, and which is why most of the panic is just, okay, what do we understand about the virus? And I always say that lightly too, because every single day we're getting new information about this disease, which is why information is so important right now for people to, one, listen to the World Health Organization, listen to the CDC, reputable places, because the medical community, the scientists, the world, we're chasing the virus. The virus is not chasing us to try to understand it. So we're finding out new information. But what we do know so far, based on the information that's out there, that it's not an airborne disease. It's respiratory. Meaning if somebody sneezes, if somebody coughs, every time we sneeze or cough, we emit a lot of particles outside of our mouth, which have germs. So anything that's respiratory in nature, one, it's a communicable disease, meaning if I'm too close to you, and I cough directly on you.
By the way, are we too close right now, or we're fine?
No, we're fine, right? And this is good though. In terms of distancing, let's say if I was somebody who started coughing and sneezing, you want to be at least 1 meter away from me, which is about 3 feet from a US metric system, right? So that, from people, even yesterday when I went running outside, you're aware of it. As in when you're walking, if you could have a choice, always be 1 meter away from somebody, because it protects you. So going back to the respiratory nature of the disease, the droplets. So now if you sneeze, even if it doesn't land on top of your face, right, it could land on a surface, right? So now our hands come into play, which is why a lot of the sensitization that's happening is safe hands, knowing what your hands touch, knowing where your hands, and avoid your hands from touching your nose, your mouth, and your eyes. So from a facial standpoint, that's how the droplets that may have the infected virus on it, that's how it enters our system, through our mouth, through our nose, through our eyes, right? So that's what we know so far, and how we transfer it. The virus could land on a surface, and it could be active and alive for up to days sometimes, which is also why people need to be aware of where their hands touch, right? So that could be, and depending on the type of surface it is, they're finding out, let's say, stainless steel, it may last a little bit longer under the right conditions than, let's say, wood or on our clothing, right? So it could stay somewhere that you don't know if somebody opens a doorknob. If I cough into my hand and I'm infected, and I open a doorknob, right, and I walk away, and 2 minutes later you're behind me, you touch the doorknob, right? But for some reason your eye starts itching, and you haven't washed your hands in between or sanitized it. You start rubbing your eye, right? Or you picking your nose, or you put your hand in your mouth. If there was active virus on my hand, that's how the infection rate happens, right? So that's how the process normally works. And it's scary too, because a lot of people, what people are seeing is a lot of people could be infected and show no symptoms for up to 14 days sometimes, which is why a lot of countries that are being affected at a high rate right now, there's quote unquote healthy people who feel fine that may be infected are probably spreading it at a faster rate. Because if you don't have a fever, which is one of the symptoms, you know, over 38 degrees Celsius, right? If you're not coughing, if you don't have difficulty breathing, you could still be infected, right? And on average, if one infected person could infect, let's say, 3 other people, think about the multiplying effect, right? So which is why the sensitization is so important. That's the scary part, because it's not something that or it's like, oh, this is what coronavirus looks like inside a person. So we don't know.
This is
and our immune system just has to build to it, right?
Thank you so much. I feel like I've taken so much from you. It's real, but I am also really, really scared because this is really, really serious. We're just going to go for a short break. When we come back, and we'll talk more to Ismaila. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the NDEY OLEY TAAL show. We're still here chatting with Dr. Ismail Badjie. Ismail, before we went on the break, we were talking about the virus and being on surfaces. And we all watching the news, we're on social media. The thing is, there's so much information right now everywhere. Everybody and their grandmother is just bringing everything in every minute. It's so overwhelming sometimes because we need to debunk some things for us, for me, for everybody. For example, I've seen doctors and health professionals even say the virus sometimes, if landed on the surface, maybe like there's a lifespan to it, like an hour or 2 or 3. How true is this? Because for example, like you mentioned somebody, if someone sneezed and they're infected and they hold the doorknob and I come right after you and touch the knob and open the door and touch my eyes and stuff. If it's between the person who sneezed and me coming, if it's like 5, 6, 7 hours and the area, for example, is like a gate to a house that's outside the sun, does that mean that the heat of the sun and all that has killed the bacteria? Am I safe?
No, so here's the thing, and that's where there's been a source of a lot of information. And at least based on the World Health Organization, the safest thing is we don't know exactly how long every particular virus on any particular surface will last.
I'm so sorry. So why are doctors here and professionals maybe saying 2 or 3 hours?
You know, I'm not sure why, and I tell people is if there's not conclusive studies, at least that the World Health Organization hasn't came out and told us that, okay, the virus only lasts for 2 hours, because I want people to realize that viruses are living organisms, meaning the environment that they're exposed to, so many factors, so many variables almost dictate how long they last on a particular surface, right? So you could read so much information online. You'll see 2, 3 hours, you'll see 6 hours, you'll see 12 hours. What I tell people is know that it could last for a very long time, that we don't know if it's short or long. So you hope for the best, which is it dies in a couple of hours, but you plan for the worst, which is why our hands are so important.
Right.
So the best thing for people to do is don't almost fixate on how many hours is it alive. Just always remember that it could be alive because you don't know. So in that case, your hands are the most important thing. Anything your hand touches, from handshakes to money, Gambia is a very cash
that's
economy.
a scary part as well.
Money is a source of a lot of germs, from door handles to your cell phones that you touch every single day. Always assume that your hands can be contaminated, so I'm not going to touch my face, my nose, my mouth, my eyes without washing it. That's the
See, that's hard as well. It's hard because
now it's conscious.
It's hard.
It's conscious. A lot of people, it could be habit to rub their eyes. Kids, how many young toddlers do we know that their hands are always in their mouth? So that's very difficult, which is why hands, the most conscious thing that should be on our mind is, what am I touching? And even handshaking is hard in the Gambia because it's reflex. Because it's our nature, whoever you see, you shake their hands, right? So if you shake your hands, your cell phone rings. You answer your cell phone, you don't have an earpiece, right? So it's scary when you think about how it can spread. But that is why, too, it could be spreading at such an alarming rate. And the fact is, the symptoms, most people will not show symptoms. So it's not like a virus that if it hits you today, tomorrow you're sick. No. So young and old, so the young people who actually may not show symptoms, they're actually the most critical people because they could spread it faster without knowing, which is why a lot of the sensitization has to go to the younger people so that we could protect the older people. Because most of the fatalities and the mortality is affecting, sometimes if somebody's immune system is not all the way strong, it puts you at a greater risk.
That's the next question I was going to ask, actually, because who are the most vulnerable? Because I saw somewhere that people that are diabetic, high blood pressure, asthma patients, heart patients, like, is there people who are more vulnerable than others, and who should be careful? What would you advise?
So I think the normal assumption in terms of a virus like this is you protect the elderly people, right? Because their immune systems may not as strong. But also a lot of the elderly people, 60, 65, may have pre-existing conditions,
Yes.
meaning they're diabetic, meaning they're hypertensive, meaning they have, COPD, which is like pulmonary disease already. Asthmatic patients, right? People that are already at risk anyways, so that elderly population, pneumonia normally affects them more anyways. That's why they vaccinate for pneumonia around 65 and older, to protect them.
In the Gambia, do they?
Well, in the US, it's typical,
Yeah, here
right?
we
The
don't- I don't
pneumococcal
think we do.
vaccine, most of the times it's actually recommended, when you turn 65 to start protecting that community
Right.
from pneumonia, because it puts them at higher risk.
Yeah.
But also, I go back to saying that that's assumptions we're making, right? Because we're still catching up to the virus. So, yes, and some people who take certain medications. So there are people who take medications that actually could bring your immune system down. And also, it puts you at a higher risk.
Like diabetic medications and stuff?
No,
maybe?
it could be transplant medications, that it could be some steroids, it could be a lot of different medications, right, that just bring your immune system, or just things that we do every single day.
Like smokers?
Right, smokers, not sleeping a lot could bring your immune system, not having proper nutrition. So our immune system, it's not like a clock where you wake up every single day and you
just
get a
adjust it,
percentage.
yeah.
And you say, okay, today I'm at 70%, today I'm at 90%. We don't know.
Yeah.
Right, you just want to do all the good things: eating a healthy diet, getting some vitamin C supplementation, sleeping. You just want to protect yourself, right? Because the virus, when it comes, it has to go through our body for us to build immunity, which is something that we have to remember on how. That's why vaccines are created, because our immune system, we have like almost soldiers, military people inside of us. But they cannot fight something that they don't recognize. So in order for them to build recognition to it, they have to come in contact with it, either through a vaccine or actually getting sick. So that's why the natural process now is all those people who are getting infected, how do we support them? Which is why, yes, they're doing some trials based on certain medications that are showing promises that it may work. So the World Health Organization right now has a solidarity trial. So they're actually finding out that some HIV medications may be effective in attacking the virus. Some malaria medications.
Yeah, because I saw chloroquine.
Chloroquine.
I'm like, what?
It's in one of the trials.
Really?
Right, chloroquine is one of the trials. Some HIV medications. Remdesivir was a medication that was actually made for the Ebola virus, but now some places are using it to see if it's effective for the coronavirus. So the medical science community, they are working ahead to see what can be. Which is why, in terms of treatment, a lot of people ask, okay, if I have the virus, then what do I do now? Right? So supportive care is what's recommended. And supportive care is like you support all the symptoms that are happening. So if it's a fever, you could use Tylenol or paracetamol to help bring the fever down, all while your immune system is fighting it.
Okay.
Right? The more severe cases now who have like respiratory problems, difficulty breathing, those people's supportive care, now they need ventilation. They need oxygen supply. Those are the people who end up in the hospital system, which is why a lot of countries now, when they talk about social distancing, you're hearing this term flatten the curve, flatten the curve. All that means is they want to prevent how many people get so sick
that they need to be
in
the
hospital, because then the hospital system is not overwhelmed. So if 1,000 people are going to get infected in a month, it's easier for our hospital system for every 3 days, 10 people get infected, because they could cater to those 10 people. Then in 3 days, 500 people get sick, and then they don't have 500 beds, or they don't have 500 ventilators. Then you have a risk of losing people. So that's why the community is, let's stay away from each other as much as we can. We do all the things. That way people that we know will get sick, our health systems are in a place to support them, which is why the supportive care. But in the US now, ventilators, there's a shortage of ventilators. There's a shortage of personal protective equipment like gloves and masks that our healthcare workers need. Because it's also counterintuitive if the healthcare workers themselves start getting sick. And then you have a demand problem, because now there's not enough nurses, doctors, pharmacists, healthcare professionals to take care of the sick people.
EMTs and everything.
EMTs. So it's just understanding that, okay, our health systems are not built for a crisis where a lot of people get sick at the same time. So we know as a virus, it has to go through us. People will get sick. Some people will recover without needing to go to the emergency room. But the people that do, how do we make sure our health systems are in a place that could support them?
Okay.
Which you always think about Africa. Because if advanced places, US, Italy, the UK, are struggling to keep up with the demands, how prepared could we be if like 2,000 Gambians needed ventilators at once, right? So those are some of the things you just have to, that's why we have to respect it. We don't know what we don't know. That's why even with the first case, when it was announced, it was like people started focusing on the person and not the virus, which is also counterintuitive. Because I guarantee if they tested every single Gambian before that flight landed, Corona, you could assume that the virus has been here.
I feel,
Right.
I was telling my mom the other day, seriously, I think the person we have right now that's been tested positive, I don't think she's the only one. But what we're going to do now, we're going to go for a break. When we come back, we're actually going to touch base on that and how bold and brave she was to take that step, get tested and be isolated right now and receiving treatment. We're going to go for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk more to Ismaila. Don't go anywhere.
Time, right place, right price. Promote your product, business, and brand to millions of viewers nationwide or across the globe. Call QTV Marketing on 32-44444 or email us at marketing@qtv.gm for all your advertisement needs. QTV Gambia, right place.
Welcome back to the NDEY OLEY TAAL show. In the studio, we still have Dr. Ismail Badjie, and he's so awesome. We're like talking about so many different things. I'm sure a lot of things are much clearer to us now. Ismaila, we've had the first case this week, and whoever that girl is, God bless her. I think she's strong. I think she's bold, and we're wishing her a speedy recovery. I hope she's fine. And as much as, you know, we were so worried about her, we also think about ourselves. But she came in and she wasn't feeling well, and she went and did a checkup and tested positive. How do you think the effective way she acted, like that response, how effective do you think that was? Because a lot of people, I'm sure, are feeling a certain way, but they're scared even to go and check.
Yeah, I think it was important, and I think part of the messaging, because for the past month, one of the reasons why actually we've been doing a lot of sensitization, because it's the world, we travel so much, people move around so much that we never assume that the Gambia is coronavirus free. So even when we say there's a first case in the Gambia, that's the first person they've tested in the Gambia who's shown positive. To me, that does not equal that's the first time coronavirus came to Gambia. So there's a different way of looking at it, right? But also, you have to give kudos to the female as well, too, which hopefully they'll protect her identity, because we also have a stigma culture, where people more care about, oh, this person brought corona to Gambia.
Oh, kind of like,
who is this, right? Versus, no, this person had signs and symptoms. Maybe she was in the UK, she received more sensitization, so she's more respecting of the disease, and she went in to MRC, which luckily we have MRC to do the testing and confirm the case. And now it becomes a sobering reality. So for the medical community, a lot of people already assume that it was here. And I tell people, the absence of evidence does not equal the evidence of absence. Just because you haven't found something doesn't mean that it's not there. So if the whole world is getting coronavirus and millions of people are passing through airports, through Casablanca, through Heathrow, through JFK, through Atlanta, right? It's almost, you can't assume that it hasn't been here. But now that, you know, they've tested the first person and it's confirmed positive, now it's a reality to a lot of people. who was like, oh, now it's in our backyard.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. But it goes back to showing, okay, sensitization is needed. So now people could respect it. To know that, okay, now if I have these symptoms, X, Y, and Z, maybe I should call first. Because now the Gambia, we have a hotline, 1025, for you to call if you feel like you have the symptoms. So what we shouldn't do also is every single person just run to MRC just because they have a capability of testing it. That's not how the health system is designed to work. They have the capability of testing, but good practice is now if you have a fever, if you are coughing, if you have difficulty breathing.
But what kind of fever is it? Because every once in a while, we all get a fever. That kind of fever must be very different from a regular fever.
Yes.
So what kind of fever are we talking about?
Most of the times, it's going to be above 38 degrees Celsius. And it could be fluctuating, too. So a lot of people who have symptoms, it could be 40 degrees, and it could be 37, and then it could be 38. So anytime you have a fever, which is why, how many people have thermometers at home?
I do.
Right? But not a lot of people have access to it. So that also brings back to our reality as Gambians. So even telling somebody, hey, if you have a fever, a lot of people don't have an instrument to measure their temperature, right? So there's a lot of things that are deficient anyways, but difficulty breathing, signs like that, people should know that, okay, maybe I should call now so that the health ministry could also tell you certain things, because it's even better for you to call in advance.
Do you know why this is confusing? Because some people do naturally find it hard to breathe. How different is that difficulty breathing again from being regularly being?
It's a respiratory disease, right? So, and they've given you a blueprint. If you have a fever, if you're coughing, if you have respiratory difficulty breathing, the next step now is making it known. So even if you call 1025 and they tell you, okay, do you have a mask at home? Put on a mask, and then they could triage you, okay, go here for testing, so that they could confirm it. Because there's people who are also having all those symptoms, go get tested, and they just have the regular flu. Right? But also that goes back to the mask thing too. That's actually when the mask is required for healthy people. I tell people all the time, the mask is designed to protect the public from an infected person, not a healthy person.
It's running out right now. Actually, everybody is wearing a mask.
And what it's doing is the people that need it the most are our healthcare professionals. And they're going to be running out of masks. So personal protective equipment, it's not designed for every single Gambian to be walking around with a mask, because it's not even part of the design. Because those masks are disposable, meaning they're not designed for you to wear it every single day, right? But you have somebody who buys one mask, and every single day they're wearing the same mask, right? So, but it's the misconception, and there's this psychological effect. Like,
you feel
I have a mask,
so
I
you're
feel
protected,
safe, right? But it's counterintuitive, and the virus could enter through your eyes, and you're not protecting your eyes, right? So we have to also let people know, yes, if you have symptoms, you're coughing, you're sneezing a lot, and you're going out in public, wear a mask, because you don't know if you're infected or not. But for a healthy individual, it would make most sense for us to save the mask, save the gloves for our healthcare
and
professionals.
use the hand sanitizing and washing the hands.
Yes, washing your hands. And I always also tell people, because now also there's a lot of fake hand sanitizers in the African market. You know, I actually just saw a product this morning that it was not fake, because it has a code that tells you scan this and you'll get a QR code. And when you scanned it, it took you to an Adele YouTube video. Like, meaning it's...
No way.
I have to show it to you. But there's also bad actors. In Africa, I tell people, fake medications have been our problem. We have been the market for fake medication. So if there's a frenzy now where now hand sanitizers is the hottest commodity.
Because I'm even seeing brands from countries I don't want to name that are known for doing hand washes and cleaning products, doing hand sanitizer all of a sudden this week.
This week in the Gambia, and I tell people is hand sanitizers, if it's not 60 to 70% or higher of alcohol, it's not effective. Right? So it does so much damage if somebody, just because they have a bottle of hand sanitizer that may not meet the required concentration to kill the virus, stops washing their hands the whole day. So the whole day they just have this hand sanitizer, they're using it, but it's not killing the virus. So I tell people all the time, washing your hands with just regular soap, if you have antibacterial soap, is better, but it's not better than regular soap. The key is just every single time you see running water, which is clean,
Wash your
it
hands.
doesn't have to be hot or cold. That's one of the misconceptions, that hot water kills it more than cold water. No. It's the act of washing with soap for 20 to 30 seconds. Do it more often. If you have a hand sanitizer that you've confirmed on the label that it has 70% alcohol content, then you could use it in replacement of washing your hands. But from a Gambian perspective, I still will not advise somebody to spend, let's say, $700 on a small bottle of hand sanitizer.
I've seen 1,600, and the price, the people are putting the price
Price
up.
gouging it. When you could just buy a good bar of soap for $10, $25 and just use that as often as possible. So we have to also protect the consumers and educate them on hand sanitizer is designed when you don't have access to running water and soap.
Yeah.
And if it's 70% alcohol content, it'll be effective if you rub it all over your hands to kill the virus, right? But if you go, especially a rule of thumb, if you don't see on the label and it says content 70% alcohol, I would advise not to buy it.
Okay.
Even if the bottle says kills 99% of germs.
99.9.
Right? That's different from this product has 60 to 70% or higher of alcohol content, because then you know that, okay, if I'm in between work or if I'm, working at a vendor that I don't have running water, I could use this safely.
Right.
But if it's not, we have to be very, very careful. And the public should know that as well, too, just to make sure we're talking to each other as well.
Okay. As Gambians and, like the elders, the elderly people, and even young people, for example, people are boiling garlic, chewing garlic, honey. People are even resorting to prayers and doing everything that these things will cure the virus. From a professional point of view, do you think this has any effect? Like, because I know people boiling liters and liters of garlic. They're watching me and they know who they are. I'm not going to mention their names, but they're drinking it like, I don't know what. Do you think this is effective, the garlic part of it?
Well, science hasn't shown us that, okay, if you drink garlic, you're not going to get coronavirus, right? So I can't responsibly say that, okay, everybody drink garlic. People have things they believe in, right? Some things have been proven, like vitamin C may help boost your immune system, vitamin D, ginger root, fruits. Those things, you could do things to help build your immune system.
Well, these are even stuff that some people do every day.
Every day, exactly. But what I tell people is, just because you start drinking garlic water doesn't mean that you need to stop washing your hands. It doesn't mean that you need to start avoiding crowded places. It doesn't mean that you need to start using hand sanitizer that's, the right type, right? Because that's not going to work. And which is why we just have to be really, really careful. If it's something that you're taking to help build your immune system, once again, we all don't know where our immune system is on any given day.
Right.
So it's just precautionary stuff. So I do advise elderly patients, if you have access to vitamin C, take about 1,000 milligrams a day, just to help bring your immune system.
Just the elderly, or?
Just in general, anybody.
General, okay.
And the reason you say that is, our diet doesn't have a balanced diet for most Gambians. They may not get the amount of vitamin B that they need, the amount of vitamin E, the amount of vitamin C. So vitamins and supplementation is just that, to supplement what you may not be getting in your diet.
Right.
We have a very carbohydrate-rich diet in the Gambia. Not a lot of people have access to fruits and vegetables, right? So these are the sources of vitamin C. So a good alternative for any person would be, okay, at least take some vitamin C supplements, or take some ginger root, some echinacea, things that there's enough science to show that it helps build your immune system. Just to help prepare your defense mechanism. So I tell people, use it as you're strengthening your army from the inside, with hopes that if that foreign...
They will fight back.
They'll fight
for
back,
you,
right? But it's not a gold standard, which is why hopefully every single person will responsibly police to tell people that is not going to protect you from it. So you still have to do your safe hand etiquette, coughing into your elbow, avoiding crowded places. Things like that. We have to make sure the messaging is very, very clear, because there's no science that's telling us, okay, take this and you won't get coronavirus, right?
I have two more questions. I know time is running out, but they're really, really important. Taxis and public transportations. What's your take on it with the virus?
So every single country, we have to assess what our reality is, right? Even with social distancing, the concept is, okay, you isolate yourself, don't go around places where there's a lot of people. That is not our Gambian reality, because public transportation is how people get around. Our public transportations, we're packed in there like sardines, right? So you're in close contact with people. So the most effective thing we could do is, how do we engage and sensitize the taxi drivers about coronavirus? Where now, even if it's every single passenger who's coming in, they literally verbalize to that passenger, hey guys, we know the coronavirus is going around. Make sure when you're coughing, cough into your elbow.
Or sit apart.
Don't shake hands,
Yeah.
right? So that people are aware of it. So because we can't give every taxi driver a hand sanitizer, and we can't tell people don't take public transport. We can't tell the market woman who's selling people. But let's reach out to those people and tell them what they need to be doing. Wearing gloves if they're using money, exchanging, right? Sanitizing, not making sure they're not coughing onto people's food. Just things like that.
Okay.
That's the best thing we could do.
Okay.
Because we can't avoid public transportation and we can't avoid people going into spaces.
My last question, Gambia, how prepared are we?
I'm going to say that the world wasn't prepared for this.
Okay.
But anything that the world isn't prepared for, African countries, Gambian included, faced more challenges because technology, healthcare infrastructure, monitoring, right, availability of supportive care, all of those it's always going to be our reality. So it's even unfair to say that, okay, this country's unprepared, this country's not prepared. We know our reality. Every Gambian, we know what our health system challenges are. We know that anything that could cause a massive need for medical attention could put us at a high risk, which is why out of all the places, we need to take preventative measures more serious. Because we know that our health system cannot sustain 40,000 Gambians who come down with a severe case of coronavirus. So maybe we should sensitize like our lives depend on it, because it may, right? So a lot of systems are not prepared. That's the thing about viruses. When it shows up, Mother Nature has a way of humbling humanity, to letting them know that, okay, let's keep things in perspective. But hopefully once we get through it, which I think we will get through it, because science and medicine will always catch up, that we'll go through the virus. Things like washing our hands, things like not coughing in public spaces, those are things we have to be doing anyways. And hopefully we could use it as an opportunity to see, okay, how do we strengthen our health systems to prepare for the next one?
Okay.
Which is why countries who are succeeding in controlling the coronavirus, they've learned from previous pandemics. So they have systems in place where they could monitor, they could test the entire population. Like South Korea is a good example of the things that they're doing. But at the end of the day, nobody was fully prepared for this.
Right.
But we know what we know, so let's follow the science, let's follow the good information, let's talk to every single person that way they're aware of what exactly is going on, and be honest about what our reality is, irrespective of what it is.
Yeah.
That's something, information should be transparent, it should be clear. Every healthcare professional should start their day on the WHO website or on the CDC website to see what the most correct information is.
Yes, because that's very vital, it's very important.
It's important. We have to police the information that is coming out so that we could debunk all the myths. We include the religious leaders as part of the conversation. Any kind of person of influence should be seeking out good information and trying to spread that information to the rest of the community, because it's one of those times where we all need each other.
Yes, we do.
Because my responsibility, you know, your health depends on it.
Right.
And so does everybody you come in contact with. So it's going to be a community effort, but I think we could do it together.
We can do it together. We can. Thank you so much, Dr. Ismail Badjie. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers have learned like a whole lot. And also, just before we go, anybody who actually traveled, especially with the girl on the flight, because I've seen they've been telling people to go and report, and I think it's been challenging for people to come out, even those on the same flight with her. What would you want to say to that?
I think see it as an act of responsibility. I don't think it stigmatizes you to say that you have the coronavirus, but the fact that MRC, so Dr. Ramunjai posted it on social media that if you came through the flight from Royal Air Maroc, I think from Monday, seek out attention, because one of the things that we have to see how we could check people who come in contact with people. That's the responsible thing to do. You're not doing it for yourself.
It's a collective responsibility.
Absolutely. You're not doing it for yourself, because once again, people could be infected and not show any symptoms. Right. So one of the things we could do is, if we're in this room right now and there's 4 of us, you test positive, the 3 of us should also be under quarantine, because there's a chance that we also could be infected.
True.
it's the responsible thing to do. And having the virus doesn't mean that you should be stigmatized. So we have to urge people to take this very, very serious. So that's all I could do, just go out and reach out to 1025 and follow the directions from there.
Thank you so much,
No
Dr.
problem.
Ismail
Thank you.
Badjie. Again, this has been amazing. We appreciate you coming. I'm sure there's so many places that you're supposed to be.
It's important. We'll get through this together.
We will
Thank
get through this together. Thank you. And I hope we've learned and we've listened, and maybe a lot of things have been lifted off our shoulders a little bit, because he actually talked about a lot of things, I'm sure, that have been affecting us, that we've been dealing with. There's a lot of confusion and stress. On my part, I know I've not been sleeping. Whatever happens to me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm nervous. It's like I can't breathe. Probably it's all in my head, I hope, you know. So until next time, stay safe out there. And like Dr. Ismail say, sanitize your hands, wash your hands as much as possible.
Yes.
See you next time.
Thank you.